Hello, and welcome to the Freedom Challenge online podcast. Here at the Freedom Challenge, we strive to do good by helping enslaved women and children to do more than you ever thought physically possible, and to do it together by connecting women with a heart for a hurting world. We hope you enjoy your time being informed and encouraged with host Tracy Daugherty and our amazing guests. So let's get ready and join Tracy for this week's episode.
Welcome back to the Freedom Challenge online podcast, Season 5. And this is your host and the director of the Freedom Challenge, Tracy Daugherty. If you're a new listener and wondering what we are all about here at the Freedom Challenge, let's talk. We are a movement of passionate women who participate in physical challenges that test our limits while raising funds and awareness to disrupt the cycles of oppression and poverty that often result in human trafficking. Our focus is on women and children living in some of the harshest parts of the world. So if you're joining today for the first time, or if you're a Freedom Sister or just a faithful listener, thank you for being a part of this movement. Now, one of the things about the Freedom Challenge that's a key part of our work is the raising of funds that are then distributed to the 43 OM projects worldwide. And for some of the women, this can feel like just as daunting as the physical challenge. And so I wanted to take some time as we're beginning our challenge season. All of the challenges are starting to come up. Women are actively raising funds. And we want to look to having a conversation with a very seasoned Freedom Sister who has been in the game with us a long time. So I welcome today Laura Wagner, and she's going to talk a little bit about generosity and the impact of the Freedom Challenge and this work in her life. So Laura, welcome. And would you tell us just a snippet about yourself and how you got involved with the Freedom Challenge?
Well, thank you so much for having me, Tracy.
Yeah.
I'm excited to be here. Yes, my name's Laura Wagner, and I've been married 31 years to my husband, Steve, and we have two grown sons, Walter and Henry. And my journey to become a Freedom Sister began about 10 years ago. I was looking back at my photos, and the first moment was when I signed up for an amazing mission trip to India 10 years ago.
I remember it.
Yes, because you were there, and it was you and about, maybe 18 other women, and we went to India. It had been a dream in my heart to go on a mission trip for my 50th birthday. And so right around the end of my 50th year, this mission trip popped up, and I hopped right on and traveled so far. I'd never gone that far in my life anywhere. And it was just an amazing experience to see how big the world was. And then to get there and really see the people and see how big God's love was and how far it reached to the whole world and into these places where there is incredible oppression and, but also really beautiful and hopeful things too that were happening there. And so I came back from that trip and just with my eyes big and thinking, oh, what's next? And lo and behold, I met Kathy Anderson, who was dear friend of yours, the founder of the Freedom Climb. Now we call it this organization, the Freedom Challenge. And she had this idea to do a regional challenge in my backyard in Southern California. And so I began to help her with that. And it really was just a beautiful day. It was on a Saturday, and we climbed a local mountain, and people gathered, and we raised money and did a lot of good work. And then not that long after that, she passed away. And so in order to honor her and to honor the people I'd met in India, I wanted to do a Freedom Challenge. And so I did my first one was in 2016. It was the Grand Tetons, and it was just an amazing experience that led to more and more freedom challenges and other mission trips. I was able to go to Moldova, and here I am 10 years later.
Still riding the Freedom Challenge train. And I remember it. I'm thinking back to 18 of us going through India. Like that was wild.
Yeah.
That was wild. Typically you might be thinking about 6 or 7 women, but for whatever reason, there were 18 of us, something like that wanted to see the good work. And you land in a really interesting category that your first look at the Freedom Challenge was not doing a challenge, but was seeing the work.
Yes.
And that is what was moving to your heart, which is a really unique opportunity. We do both, right? There's the fundraising actively on a challenge, and then there's often hosting and going to a place where those monies are arriving to disrupt these cycles of poverty and oppression that are often the catalyst to human trafficking. So that's a unique place. And I think the two of them fuel each other, right? Because you see what just the dollars that we're raising are actively doing to change real lives, not just a story, not just a person out there, but a real person with a real little face. And we have so many memories together. And I love that you represent a heart that has been really a part of this movement. Not like sometimes we'll see a woman that's won and we hopefully don't want to say done, but someone like you that through the years, you're kind of rolling in and out, maybe taking a pause and supporting someone else, giving coaching to women that are doing something for the first time. You really have been a part of many of those things, in which makes you such a seasoned person to have on this podcast. And I love it so much. One of the things the other week, you and I actually got to go on a hike together. We were both bemoaning how we hadn't been out quite too much this year and feeling let's get going, let's get those bodies moving. We talked about this podcast and I shared the heart behind wanting to see you be a voice on this. And you mentioned the theology that you've developed around generosity, and it really touched me. This idea that, theology is the study, the knowledge that we have about God when we study him, his presence, who he is. And so to think about generosity connected to that, who he is, I want to hear more about that. Just bring it out. It's so good.
Well, a lot of it really started with you, Tracy. But just to back up a moment, when we went to India, we were raising some money to be able to give to the projects there. And I remember not raising money, but I was wanting to pay for my portion myself. And then fast forward, maybe a couple years, and you and I and a bunch of women were sitting around, and you shared just a beautiful scripture that just opened my mind so big to our amazing God. And it was Proverbs 19:17, which says, "Whoever is kind to the poor lends to the Lord, and he will reward them for what they have done." And then I thought I'd just read it in the Passion Translation too, because it's beautiful there. And it's, "Every time you give to the poor, you make a loan to the Lord. Don't worry, you'll be repaid in full for all the good you've done." So when I heard that, I thought, this God is so amazing. Like he has, the whole world is his and everything in it. And so we get to give him back something that is already belongs to him, but then he considers it a loan to him, and he wants to repay us for that. And not just maybe in monetary ways, but I mean, just in blessing and just knowing him more. And so I thought about it a lot, and I just thought, I'm actually withholding blessing from others by not sharing,
Hmm.
asking them to participate in this work with me. And
Mm-hmm.
and it was just so powerful because I thought, well, it just gave me a whole new perspective and boldness to be able to talk to people about the Freedom Challenge and the work that's being done to prevent and then save people that are in trafficking. And then if I don't share it, I'm really stopping God's work in other people's lives, and in the lives of the people that we want to help. And
Hmm.
so it just was such a powerful thing for me to think about. And just still, even when you asked me to sort of speak on this topic, I've had more time to even think about it, and just this amazing God that we have, who wants to consider the work we do in this area alone to him, because he loves these people
Hmm.
so much. And then he wants to just bless us in return. Yeah.
Laura, there's something about what it says about the character and nature of God when I hear you say this, like his agenda. A lot of
Mm-hmm.
times we're like, what is God's agenda? Like, he is so focused on this topic
Mm-hmm.
about the marginalized, the oppressed, the impoverished. This is something that is cared about deeply. And when I hear you talking about the loan, you just think about in our lives, we get loans for things that we really want, like we need a house, or we are going to remodel, or, we need a particular item. And to think that God is like, I really want you to care about this agenda. And when you do, it's a loan. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a remarkable thought. And
Yeah.
I think something I've heard you say before, and maybe you'll allude to it in the future, but remembering, because all of us, when we come to a challenge, including myself,
Mm-hmm.
I always like to engage in this activity because it keeps me sharp and humble and all of those things. We're asked to fundraise peer to peer. There are some women that they just want to write the check. They have the
Mm-hmm.
means to do it. But to your point, in doing so, you're preventing people from having the opportunity to have this exchange with God.
Yeah.
And so I imagine there's a little bit of humility that it takes for you through the years to courageously invite people in your circle and wondering what they might be thinking about. What was that like for you? Like, just kind of overcoming some of those hurdles.
Yeah. I mean, I thought, I think I was thinking that people would find it strange that I was asking them to give when I could be giving myself, because,
Mm-hmm.
and so I've tried to make it, over the years, I've tried to really make it abundantly clear, like, I am doing my own part, but I'm inviting you to partner with me. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so that people feel like, oh, okay, so she is, you know, buying her ticket to go to these places and paying her
Mm-hmm.
registration and buying gear and training. And I make sure they know everything that I'm
Yeah.
doing. And then also, like, that I regularly give to my own
Yes.
fundraising too. And
Yeah. Yeah.
so yeah. So I think that was the big obstacle, was just feeling like people would think, well, you should do it yourself if you're so
Mm-hmm.
passionate about it.
Yeah,
But
and you are investing. If you really think
mhm,
about how much a woman is actually investing, and then opening that space to say, will you partner with me? And I think,
mhm,
if I'm correct, I remember you hearing that it really was helpful for you to remember, I'm not asking for me. I'm asking on behalf of God
yeah,
for his agenda, oppressed
yes,
women and children who are, in these places of lack of freedom. So, like, in your
yes,
mind, set like reframing. And a
mhm,
lot of that's just coming from fear of man, all of those things, which it's very human. I
yes,
I I often can fall into that as well. So that narrative of reminders is really solid. It's really
yeah.
good.
And I think too, like just not looking at the fundraising piece as just like this other awful piece that you have to do, but also this opportunity to grow closer to the Lord as you kind of walk hand in hand with him on this journey where he wants you to trust him more. And I think, like every time I set my, fundraising goal, and I usually try to make it a little bit more than the actual goal, just to kind of see. Your heart just gets a little fluttery, like it is like you're about to start climbing this mountain and you're like, I don't know if I can do it, but you're not doing it on your own. I mean, it's with him, and it's just a beautiful chance to be on pilgrimage with him.
Yes.
And so.
And ignite faith.
Mm-hmm.
I have noticed, I don't know that there's ever been a time that you haven't made or surpassed your fundraising goal. And what I notice is that women often approach, as you said, like, ooh, this is daunting. But God meets every time. Like, it is incredibly rare when women come to challenges. They are like uncertain, but I can almost not even think of a time where God just didn't meet them. I mean, I'm thinking about the pilgrimage that we just had to El Camino de Santiago. There was one Freedom sister who came. She was at 80%. She really was focused on finishing it. We said, come, let's trust God together. And I think it was like maybe the third or fourth day, she gets this message, and the gift actually brought her to her goal. I think even a little beyond that. So there is story after story where I'm thinking of another time. I think it was last year in New York. One of the women was same thing, reached out to a prayer partner and said, here I am. I'm starting my challenge. And that person, bam, gave a gift, and she completed her goal. So it is so faith building to see what happens as we open up and we're vulnerable in that way, which I love about you. Now, one of the things about generosity, and I think as Jesus followers, which we are Jesus followers, you and I, where we want to listen to his words. And so much of who he is generous. And as we become more and more like him, we take on that essence of generosity. And one of the things I like to say about that is this word stewardship, which is we are only managing everything in our lives that God has bestowed and given us. So we don't own it, we manage it. And so a way that I've framed that in my mind is life stewardship. And the acronym is LIFE. So that is our labor can be a form of generosity. Our influence is a form of generosity, our finances, and our expertise. And all of those are really a part of stewardship and reflect generosity. So I can talk on and on about this with you because I see it active in your life. But would you share how that has played out in your life, how you've used labor, influence, finances, and expertise and stewarded those for the kingdom, and especially with the Freedom Challenge?
Well, just like, like all of everything belongs to him. Like you said, we belong to him. And so when I think about labor, I think about, my time, and I have this time. And so sometimes, he'll show me things that are breaking his heart, and then I can use my time, to do a freedom challenge, go on a mission trip, or make a meal for someone that's having a baby, or someone that's losing a parent, or someone, or even in this season, caring for my elderly parents who are needing more assistance, before. But, and then even just to be a praying person with my time. But it definitely makes me think, okay, how am I using this time of my life that he's given me, because it does belong to him. And then with my influence, because I'm getting older, I think I've just met so many more people in my life. And, so you just, all of those people are potential people to introduce to Jesus, and to introduce to things he cares about, like the human trafficking, people that are dealing with that in their lives, or oppression. And And so, I mean, I've just loved being a person that gathers people together. We've
Mm-hmm.
had some amazing gatherings for Freedom Challenge work, and just inviting ladies in to support other women and children that are in. And then we've had men's nights where they play poker,
Yeah.
and we've gotten to talk about the work we're doing. And so I guess,
Pickleball nights,
oh yeah,
paint
pickleball.
nights. I
That's
mean,
right.
I can
Yes.
think about you. You excel and I think it's a hidden part of generosity. When
Mm,
you can intentionally say, I'm going to influence and open this to others so that they can understand more about God and his heart for the world,
yeah.
you are using that for his kingdom, and it's very generous. So I mean, I'm like, put 2 exclamation marks after influence, all of these. Laura, you live such a generous life, but the
Oh.
obvious is finances. But it's interesting how we only see, usually when we think about generosity, finances.
Hmm. Yeah, that really, um, is what you think about. And of course, my husband had a really successful business, and so
Mm-hmm.
we've been able to just, I mean, just really start to think about like these are not our finances. They belong to God, and where is His heart, and where would He like to use these? And I mean, of course, He wants us to have some too, and use it for our family.
Yes.
But at the same time, there's just so much. It's such a
Mm-hmm.
blessing to be able to give into the work. I mean, not give, but give back into his work
Mm-hmm.
that he wants to do in the world. And
Mm-hmm.
it's just been really a gift to us
Mm-hmm.
to be part of that. And yeah, and expertise. I mean, when I thought about that, I thought, well, whatever expertise I have, it's just from from Jesus growing me. And
Mm.
I thought, if I'm the fundraising person to speak on this, I mean, that's because I started not understanding it at all. And he's, given me this wisdom
Mhm.
over a 10-year period. So it does sometimes takes a long time.
Yeah.
And I'm still not there, not all the way. I'm not finished. So there's more
Yeah.
growing to do. And yeah,
Yeah.
I just feel like part of what he's done in my life too is just grown me as someone that can speak. Like I
Mhm.
felt so just not able to speak on topics, but it's just amazing that I just have been able to. I mean, even just speaking today on this is just
Mhm.
really amazes me.
Yeah. I think back and as I reflect through the years, you've shown up to lead other women as a Sherpa on a challenge. I'm thinking about your husband who you alluded to it, a successful business. I remember you opening the expertise of that business space to the Freedom Challenge. So I think you've used a large amount of creativity, maybe without even knowing it, because your heart is so connected to Christ's heart to say, oh, this is generosity. This is a gift. So I think the
Hmm.
call for women joining is, don't underthink or underestimate the power of some of these small, I'm going to have this conversation. I'm going to send this invitation. I'm going to have a small group and talk about what I'm doing and answer questions.
Hmm.
Sometimes we discount them even before we step into them.
Yeah.
And that really alludes to the courage to step into these moments. Courage is to do a physical challenge, to get on an airplane, to not know women. If you were showing up to a challenge, what's that going to be like?
Yeah.
And then to just open your heart to others. And so I think when I hear this discussion, it really does speak to the courage that you've had to keep growing and moving forward, but also maybe even a call to the women that are sitting in that seat as
Yeah.
new, stepping into this. So
Yeah.
that brings us to, what would you say to encourage your fellow sisters who maybe for the first time are saying yes. And I can think, we're
Mhm.
registering right now, and I'm thinking of a lot of different faces that they're going, ooh, well, how do I do it? So what would be your encouragement?
You're not alone. I mean, that we're all here for you, and that there's, you are walking this path. Well, it's been walked by many other women, and it's an area that, God just wants to grow you in and show you the way, and you'll just be amazed, and it will be an exciting adventure for you, and you'll grow to really enjoy seeing the fruit of just what you've done, just like as if all the training, and then you're able to hike the mountain, and it just feels so good to just be walking up that mountain with your hands open and praying for all these women and children. And then when you're raising the money, you're just every $150 that someone commits to give to this work, it's one child, it's one woman who's going to be free because of that. And so it's just so rewarding, and it's, you know, you're not going to be doing it alone. Jesus wants to do it with you, and he'll
Mm,
show you every person that needs to be part of this, that he wants to bless, and maybe even some of those will become Freedom Sisters, and it's just a beautiful thing to watch it unfold. And so don't be
mm,
afraid.
you're imparting courage. Okay, I have a zinger question I didn't tell you I was going to ask. When you think back over these last 10 years, what was a moment, an event, a person, or it could be any of those realms where you were surprised that you got a yes or you had great success? Again, I think that sometimes we can talk, I do it. I
Mhm.
can talk myself out of why that person wouldn't want to, they're so busy, or why no one would want to come to this thing that I'm having. Like, I still struggle with that, Laura.
Yeah.
And I have to tell my little insecure self that's acting really human, it's okay. Let's move forward. So, like, practically, can you give us like a story of like absolute surprise? Like, you weren't going to ask, you thought, yeah, what's this going to do? And you were like, what? That was so great.
Yeah. I guess the thing that comes to mind was, I mean, I think sometimes we'll be asking people that aren't Jesus followers, and you just wonder
Mm-hmm.
like what they'll say, or is this a Christian organization?
Mm-hmm.
And so there was a time when I asked someone that I just wasn't sure if they would, be supportive of something that was
Mm.
Christian oriented, and then this person turned into the biggest champion for all of my freedom challenges, and
Wow.
it's just been amazing. And yeah, I hope
Yeah.
someday he'll become a Jesus follower
Yeah.
too. So
Yeah, but
yeah,
it took courage for you to actually step into that. And so I think the wisdom there is for us to not talk ourselves out of the ask, give the person the ability to respond instead of making that decision for them. And sometimes, this is common humanity. Like when we're just talking about this topic, I mean, even outside of the fact that we really are following Christ, and we believe that the whole gospel addresses the whole person,
yeah,
spirit, soul, and body, right? Transformed totally. Most people, their hearts can be moved toward what it would be like to be powerless and voiceless as a woman or a child in this world.
yeah,
So I think that that is a really good thing to think about as we move, through this challenge season, and
yeah,
people are thinking about. I mean, I imagine you sit down. I mean, maybe even you could bring us into that. Like, do you sit down and like write down names or pray over the names and like get a strategy of like, okay, I'm going to send notes to people? I mean, now everything is so electronic, which I love, even with our new
mhm,
platforms, even easier.
yes,
Bam, Zelle, bam, Venmo. So it's easier. But like, what's your, like, how
yeah.
do you go about that?
Just recently, because I'm setting my goal for this year. And so I redid my Freedom Champion page.
Mm-hmm.
And so getting in touch with my why and just back to the heart of why am I doing this? Taking myself out of the equation, really. And then, I've got previous people that have given in the past. And then thinking about this year, I just was really thinking, who's new? Who's new? Because there are those to go back to again, and they want to give, of course, a lot of the people that want to give to this mission ministry or repeat people, but always to be opening it, influencing further, and so that was kind of my process. So I probably will, make a list, and then I'd be praying. I mean, and then lots of times when I've been on a challenge, I like to pray for the people that have given and just that kind of idea.
Bringing them along in your journey. I've noticed that you use social media platforms to sort of let people see what you're doing and all of those things, which is great, because that's how people's hearts get connected. There's Laura Wagner scaling Kilimanjaro. What's going on over there? They sort of get on the edge of their seat with you.
And then just to thank them afterwards, for being part and telling them like, oh, wow, our whole, like just the Camino, what you guys raised over $400,000. And I would be telling everybody about that, and just some of the project, just maybe a little snippet if I met like someone that was part of OM that came and did it, like what their work was, and just to share more. Just people want to know more.
Yeah, they do. And it really ties their heart into it. And now we have so many, we're going to do a podcast, I think in a couple of weeks, with some of the resources available for women stepping into this, like practical things, like what to do with your page and how to send it out as a text or as a story on your social media, and, the simplicity, because the world that we live in face to face is always great. People like to hear from your heart and have that meaningful connection. And then obviously sometimes the following up of the practical pieces of it. So we're going to talk more about that. But yeah, I agree with you. Often we don't realize how much people want to hear your Laura Wagner's story and feel a part of that journey. I mean, I have talked to people who say, I'm all in for Freedom Challenge through Laura. Like they're your people, right? Like they're like, we're living vicariously and partnering intentionally through Laura's journey as a sister. So it's pretty cool. Well, I would like to have us end on this note. If you could describe your experience with the Freedom Challenge, give us, a word or a summary statement about what you would say that is.
Oh man, this is such a hard question because there's just so many words that I would use to describe my experience. But I guess I'm just going to come back to this idea of being bold and sharing. Just because God, He's just made us that way to use our voices and be bold. And we have all of the resources of heaven at our fingertips, and we can be bold and grow. I mean, I'm just going to go on and on, so you can cut me off, but you have to do this. It's just wonderful.
Yeah. There's a Proverbs that says, stand up and be a voice for those with no voice. So I love how you connected it to your voice.
Yeah.
I know that there's a lot of women in the world who have not discovered their voice. American women that are going to join us on behalf of other women who actually have no voice because it's been taken from them, and they're stepping into what does it look like to step into freedom. So there's a dual part of that freedom, right? Voice for voice, my body walking for those that don't have that opportunity to walk. So many parallels there, and you have walked them out with me, dear sister. I'm so grateful for so many years of partnership. You are the dearest of dear, a true treasure to the Freedom Challenge, royalty, if I might add.
Oh, I back at you.
Thank you for joining me this rainy morning in San Diego.
Oh, it's a pleasure.
Blessings. And ladies, if you are listening and you want to get involved, you can challenge yourself physically, pray intentionally, give generously. We have so many events coming up this year that you could become a part of. Our Arkansas challenge is coming up. It's a one-day challenge on March 29th. Our urban hike in NYC on May 17th. Our multi-day challenge in the Adirondacks. We will be leaf peeping in September, and so many other ways to get involved. So if you want to check out our website, you can see all the fresh offerings. And until next time, let's continue to do good by helping enslaved women and children, do more than you ever thought physically possible, and do it together by connecting with other women who have a heart for a hurting world. God bless.
Thanks for listening to the Freedom Challenge online podcast. If you liked what you heard, join the fight to set women and children on a pathway to freedom across the globe. We are a proud ministry of Operation Mobilization USA and encourage you to learn more at thefreedomchallenge.com and omusa.org for how you can get involved. Follow us on Facebook, on Instagram at the FCUSA, and don't forget to subscribe and leave a review to let us know what you think. We'll see you next time.